The marvellous Daily Telegraph writer and frequent GB News guest, Alison Pearson, has in her typically acerbic fashion perhaps given the Conservative Party press team its best idea yet. I mean, this is the best idea since my mother worked in the Conservative Party press office in the early 1960s. Pasting this picture of Sir Keir Starmer taking the knee to the BLM neo-Marxist mob all over the country at the next election. So the question is, will this picture come back to haunt Sir Keir Starmer? Kelvin, it's a great picture, isn't it?
It's a fantastic picture, taken, I think, about 4 years ago, I think, on the death of the chap in the United States, and very sad that was, and that police officer got a massive sentence, and quite right too. The question is, are we going to be taking the knee to every minority that feels that they have had a poor life? Right, because if they're going to do that, they should do it for white people, because the white poor are the biggest disadvantage of any minority in our country. And so I believe that was a mistake. And were it to happen today, knowing Starmer, he wouldn't do it, would he?
And Tessa, Black Lives Matter turns out to be a deeply sinister organisation. It was arguing for defunding the police, it's neo-Marxist, and then it turned out to be anti-Semitic. So it's been found out, and people who took the knee to it should be ashamed, shouldn't they, by that association? Did you take the knee?
I've never publicly taken the knee, no, because there wasn't an occasion or a platform in that moment. But Gareth Southgate, we've turned into a national hero, and him and his football team regularly take the knee. And I think to undercut Keir Starmer for taking the knee in that moment, it was after George Floyd's funeral, I think the day of George Floyd's funeral, in the moment saying he stood against, black, anti-black, he was opposing anti-black racism.
But he wasn't, he was supporting Black Lives Matter.
Well, no, he said he was taking the knee in opposition to anti-black racism. I wrote it down, and I'm quoting what he said.
Yeah, but he was using the symbol of a neo-Marxist organisation.
No, I don't think we can credit Black Lives Matter with taking the knee. That's to embolden Black Lives Matter. No, they use
when it's quite clear, it is based on colour, right? So there's no ifs and buts about that. My issue about that is, would the leader of the Lib Dems, would he do it? Would a Conservative leader, would a One Nation Tory do it? The answer is no, because if we're going to start taking the knee about that, why don't we take the knee? I know you feel strongly about Gaza. Why don't we take the knee for Palestinians?
I think the Tory MP for Newbury took the knee. I might stand corrected on that, but I think she did.
I'm glad you brought that up, because what's interesting about Keir Starmer, sometimes it feels like he does a bit of a pick and mix. What works for him in the moment? I can't understand why he is literally the Conservative Party's echo chamber on our foreign policy in the Middle East. It is extraordinary. In the last 24 hours, we've seen...
Should he take the knee for Gaza, for Palestinians?
I presume what you're meaning is, should he call for a ceasefire?
Everybody is oppressed in some way in this world, aren't they?
Well, they sure are in Gaza at the moment, even in a UN shelter.
What about old people? Take the knee for Kelvin.
You're not very oppressed, and I'm not very oppressed, and I don't think Tessa's too oppressed.
We're not oppressed. I mean, you're being glib, and you're actually undercutting institutional racism that Keir Starmer, as a lawyer, and he's seen most of our migration law that was introduced in the 60s and 70s was actually
But this whole concept of institutional racism is nonsense, isn't it?
No,
that only individuals can hold views. You can't attract views to institutions.
I don't think, it's
individuals that matter. And this is basic socialism. You attach an opinion to a collective because you don't want to tackle the problem of opinions held by individuals.
I don't. My uncle was a commander in the Metropolitan Police at the time of Stephen Lawrence, and he admitted to me there were serious issues in the police
individuals.
Force. No, not with individuals.
And the police force was incompetent.
But not with individuals. About the idea that there could be men, not only men, police men and women high up who would pull over, and I've heard this from the horse's mouths, pull over an impressive car, say a BMW with a black guy in it, on the assumption that just because he's black, he'll be up to no good with that.
But that's the individual.
No, but it's not.
If individuals behave badly, you have to stop the individual. When you say it's institutionalised, you make the problem easier. You put it away. You've got to deal with the individual.
But the point is the institution is facilitating that kind of thinking,
I would think it was being a police officer in London today must be an absolute nightmare, where crime is rampaging.
All right,
it's not rampaging.
Okay, we've got to move on. But mentioning the police, it's time for me to say how marvellous the police at the Palace of Westminster are, and many of them watch this programme. So if you're watching and you're on duty at the Palace, thank you, and thank you to my panel. We'll see them next week. Coming up, more doom and gloom for the eco-lobby as smart meters and electric cars face yet another collision with reality. Plus, parliamentary procedure, a development of niche interest to the cognoscenti.